You wrote. Now, this is the reason I hit you up. I guess it was late last week. But I don't even remember when it was. Beginning of this week, because you wrote that you thought that the emphasis on football was damaging basketball. I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, so you'll have to crystallize it for me. I don't see a connection, but I want you to explain what you're talking about with, and maybe it has something to do with Bill Belichick and everything that North Carolina is trying to do to improve football. But do you think the two are related?
I do. I don't think Bill Belichick is related, but I think that is a signal that it's going to be escalated. I just think that more money, more emphasis, and money being NIL and that type of thing has definitely gone to football. And with a bigger piece of the pie going to football, it's got to come from other places. Soccer, tennis, swimming,
right,
but also men's basketball and women's basketball. And I think we're seeing the start of the effect of that. I think it's only going to get worse. And as I mentioned in the column, one of the reasons why the SEC has gotten so good in basketball is the difference in the revenue. They've got money left over. They can make the kind of commitment we're talking about in football. But there's still enough left over that they can put it into basketball as well. And I think that the ACC can't do that because of the difference, because of the disparity.
So what's the Big Ten's problem? Because the Big Ten has more money than the SEC.
I don't know what the Big Ten's problem is, because their problem is gone. Listen, when was the last time a Big Ten team won a national championship?
Michigan State, 2000.
Yeah, so I mean,
their
issues. I don't know what their issues are, but I think the ACC. I just think that, and this goes back to the John Swofford era, when they first started expanding with the Virginia Techs and Syracuses and Pittsburghs of the world. It was all done for football. Everything the ACC has done over the past 2 decades has been geared specifically toward improving football, and I don't know that it's been successful, and I think that the victim has been basketball.
Well, we can certainly have a conversation. Brett Friedlander, Saturday Down South ACC columnist, is joining us here at BFriedACC on Twitter. Because there's a conversation about the experiment for football, and I'm not saying we should stop it, but the emphasis on football has not worked because, I mean, other than Clemson in the last decade, we haven't had great ACC football. I know Florida State got screwed last year. We can all agree to that. But, I mean, it's been a minute since Florida State's been at the top of the game, too. 2013 was when they – was it 2013 or 2012 when they won that title?
2012. And they've been through 2 coaches now since Jimbo Fisher. So, yeah.
Okay, so we could certainly talk about that. But I don't know that the expansion has hurt basketball, because some of the teams that the ACC expanded with have certainly been good, and some of the football brands have actually put good basketball teams out there. Miami's more often than not been good, went to a Final Four. I think Florida State was a national championship favorite in the year that got shut down because of the pandemic, and I feel bad that Leonard Hamilton's team didn't have a chance to win the ACC title in Greensboro that year. I remember them like John. Was it Swofford? Yeah, it was Swofford.
Yes, it was.
Swofford presenting the trophy to them in front of nobody before the quarterfinals on Thursday, because we weren't going to have anything. We weren't playing any more basketball, and I felt bad for that team because they didn't have a chance to prove it on the court. They haven't been good since. I think the bigger problem is that universities have simply not hired good enough coaches. Like, Tony Bennett was a great coach. Virginia was good. I didn't like watching him, but I mean, I'm not knocking the way the level that Bennett could coach at. Louisville, when Rick Pitino left town, haven't really hired the right guy. Jim Boeheim hung too long at Syracuse, and now they're a mess. I watched their game against Georgetown that they lost. Georgetown hired the right guy in getting Ed Cooley. It took Georgetown a while. So I just think that they have not necessarily hired well. I appreciate the fact that Clemson kept Brad Brownell there because I think he's a good coach, and it looks like they're going to be a pretty solid, good NCAA tournament level program as long as he's going to be there. But Georgia Tech should be better. They haven't hired. They've gone cheap because they have no money as a university, but they've gone cheap.
But that's what I'm talking about, though, Adam. I'm not talking that these programs have watered down the product, although some of them actually have. But I'm talking about the financial commitment. They've gone cheap at Georgia Tech. Why? Because they've got to compete with Georgia in football. Because football drives the bus, because football brings in all the money, and that's the emphasis. So there's not enough money left to hire a top-level coach. So you've got to settle.
Well, they settled for the wrong guy, and they paid Josh Pastner a decent amount of money. So no offense to Josh Pastner, as a halfway decent broadcaster, but he wasn't a good coach. And
I tell you what, to every job that he had, he fell upwards because he was getting ready to get fired at Memphis, and Georgia Tech saved him and hired him away. So yeah,
so you can hire a guy on the way up, and I don't understand. We've chosen poorly, and I know for a lot of people they think it's karma, in that the ACC, which has been blamed for as the tipping point for the last 15 or 20 years of conference, really 20 years of conference realignment based on, taking Miami, Virginia Tech, and Boston College from the Big East. Then it was supposed to be Syracuse, but they got hosed. They eventually got in, but I just think it's been more circumstance. I just don't see a connection because Duke looks like they're good in football. They have clearly made a commitment to football. And I don't think it's impacted basketball. And North Carolina, for the most part, I don't think football has had any negative impact on basketball. I think they missed on big men.
I just feel like the resources that are being put into football are taking away from the resources that are being put into basketball, and it's. There are a lot of factors, and the coaching is clearly one of them. I mean, you go from Coach K, Roy Williams, Jim Boeheim in his prime, Mike Bray, Rick Pitino, to the Kenny Paynes, Damon Stoudemire's, and Micah Shrewsbury's of the world. There's a drop off. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, legendary coaches step down. Eventually. Now, Jim Boeheim.
And there's something else too, Adam. NIL has had something to do with it as well because other schools can afford better players, and I think the talent pool has spread out wider across other conferences.
But the NIL, Brett, the NIL is independent. The NIL is not about the money you bring in from TV. Now, there will be the revenue sharing. That'll be a bigger. To me, that's going to be the bigger deal. The revenue sharing is going to be the bigger deal. Because the NIL, that's all independent. So and maybe the ACC, it has nothing to do with football. Well, maybe it does a little bit, but the truth of the matter is that we have smaller schools, right? The ACC's biggest university is NC State, Florida State, right? And they're like the Big Ten. They've got 7 universities bigger than the biggest ACC school.
Well, look at right off the bat, Wake Forest is the smallest FBS school in the country.
Yep.
SMU is the second smallest. So
and Duke's right there too.
Yeah. And then Boston College is a it's Boston College, but it's not a public university.
No.
It's a private Catholic school.
We have
there are a few of those. Yeah.
Half the league is are smaller private universities, and no other major conference has that. The SEC, other than Vanderbilt, entirely public. The Big Ten, other than Northwestern, entirely public. Big 12 is largely state universities.
Blame it on John Swofford for emphasizing academics. Come on.
No, emphasizing media markets.
Yes, that's right. Anybody who thought that Boston was we're going to get the Boston market. Well, I mean, look at the Boston Globe or the Boston Herald. BC is about on page 7, because you've got all those pro teams. It's a pro town.
It is a pro town, except for hockey. Right? Except for hockey, Brett. They love BC hockey.
Yeah.
When NC State starts playing and UNC, when they start playing NCAA hockey, we'll have hockey as an ACC sport. Notre Dame will play. We'll have Boston College, and we will kick rear end.
Don't hold your breath, though, because all the money that would go to starting those programs is going to football.
I understand.
Full circle.
All right, before I let you go, Brett Friedlander, Saturday Down South, ACC reporter. Do you remember the super teams?
Yes.
Right? I was trying to explain to Victoria, and I figured you and I are basically the same age, that you would understand what I was talking about. It was the team version of Superstars, which was amazing.
Yeah. Listen. I can still see Wayne Gretzky running, the 100-yard dash.
Wasn't Wayne? This was it Gretzky? I remember a water skier named Wayne Grimditch was always good. Why I would remember that name is only because of the Superstars, but the super teams, Cowboys and Steelers going at it. I remember Robert Newhouse sweating with his face in the sand. He's got sand.
Those guys trying to swim too. That was was one of my favorites.
Gosh, what a time to be alive.
Didn't Howard Cosell do the commentary on that?
Of course. He and Gifford. Frank Gifford was the host, man. It was amazing. All right, Brett, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year to you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Adam, take care.
Take care, Brett Friedlander.